When I saw the message pop up on his screen, I didn't think anything of it at first. It was just a notification from an unknown number, nothing that screamed affair or demanded attention. Some were casual, others straight up explicit. And they weren't just texts. She asked him to come over to her apartment more than once, talked about how much she missed him, and even hinted at times they'd already been together physically. My hands were shaking, but I kept scrolling, each message another dagger. It wasn't just a one-time mistake or a drunken slip-up. It was a full-blown emotional and physical affair that had been going on for a while. I tapped it without even thinking, figuring it was some random promotion or maybe a coworker. I kept wondering, how long had he been looking me in the eyes while texting her? And walk out the door with my kids in my arms. I didn't. I couldn't. Not because I was weak, but because I had to be smart. How many times did he hold our baby in one arm while messaging her with the other? I knew confronting him right then wouldn't fix anything. I didn't want him to get wind of anything through anyone, so it's about survival. I was keeping secrets to play games. I was protecting myself and my kids in the only way I knew how. Still eating at the same table. Still letting him kiss the kids goodnight. But everything had shifted. I was looking at a man I no longer recognized. And I was holding a secret that could change everything for all of us. I didn't know how he'd react if I confronted him. I knew there would be a right time to speak. And I wanted to be ready when it came. I didn't know if he'd lawyer up first, twist the narrative, or suddenly try to take the kids out of spite. I needed time to build a foundation to know my rights, understand the prenup better, and see how infidelity could impact custody, especially with the clause in place. I had agreed to it in good faith years ago, because I wasn't marrying him for money. I believed in us. I'd be entitled to more support. I'd have a stronger argument in court. Took screenshots of the messages before they could be deleted. Backed them up. Talked to a lawyer, discreetly just to understand my options. I wasn't planning revenge. I was protecting my children's future. I could fight for full custody and not feel like I was walking into a legal war zone, empty-handed. It was the first time I felt like I had a real chance. He earns significantly more than I do. His job provides him with stability, benefits, and the ability to hire the best lawyers if he needed to. I, on the other hand, have been home with the kids for most of the last 5 years. He was still smiling, kissing me goodbye in the mornings, acting like we were a happy family. Maybe he thought I'd never find out. Or maybe he assumed that if I did find out, I'd forgive him like it was nothing. It became my quiet strength. I wasn't just staying calm for the sake of peace. I was preparing to stand up for myself and my children when the time was right. But that clause, the one he thought he'd never trigger, meant everything now. I paused my career to raise our family, and now I feared that sacrifice would be used against me in court. There it was, in plain language. Infidelity voids the agreement. His cheating didn't just destroy trust, it broke a legally binding contract. That clause was written for situations exactly like this one, and suddenly, it gave me hope. I believed in building a future together. But now, that contract, the very one he insisted on to protect his assets, had become the thing that could protect me and our children. Because while I was emotionally devastated, I couldn't let that distract me from what mattered most. Our children's future. What would protect them? What would give me the strongest position, legally and emotionally, to make sure their lives stayed as stable as possible? That's when I remembered the prenup. When we got married, he was the one with the money. He wanted the prenup to make sure that if things ever went south, I couldn't take him for half of everything. At the time, I agreed I wasn't marrying him for money. The contract had one crucial clause. It would be void if he cheated. If I left in a storm of emotion, he could turn around and paint me as unstable postpartum, hormonal, irrational. Judges, look at that. And even though I've given every ounce of myself to raising these babies, I knew the court system dos and tea. That terrified me. On the surface, nothing changed. But inside, I was unraveling while also carefully planning my next move. And with 3 very young children, 2 of whom can't even form full sentences yet, I couldn't risk losing even partial custody. That was my worst fear. Those thoughts haunted me, but I said nothing because saying something too soon could risk everything I still needed to protect. But as the screen loaded and I started scrolling, my heart dropped into my stomach. There they were, months and months of flirty texts, inside jokes, late-night chats, and pictures I wish I could unsee. I sat there, holding his phone, trying to keep my breath steady. Our newborn was napping in the other room. Our toddler was watching cartoons. My 5-year-old was playing with building blocks on the floor. And here I was, freshly postpartum, running on 2 hours of sleep. I just put the phone down and went back to ordering diapers like nothing happened. I couldn't just blow up our life in that moment. We had a prenup, one that gave him the upper hand financially and could affect custody of our kids. I remembered there was a clause about infidelity, one that could void the whole agreement. So instead of reacting emotionally, I told myself to wait, to think. To protect my children, who had no idea their world was about to change. And reading proof that my husband, the man I married and trusted, had been living a double life behind my back. Guilt for not speaking up the moment I found out. Anger that I even have to feel guilty when I'm the one who was betrayed. Finding those texts wasn't just a blow to my marriage, it felt like a betrayal of everything we built together. Especially with our children so young and dependent on both of us. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even confront him, not then. That probably sounds cold, but it wasn't because I didn't feel anything. I felt everything. But more than anything, I felt trapped. And maybe that's why I'm now stuck between guilt and anger. The discovery shook me to my core. I didn't just lose trust in my husband, I lost trust in the version of reality I thought I was living in. After finding those messages, I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw his phone at the wall, pack my things. The moment I saw that woman's name and all those texts, something in me shut off emotionally and turned on strategically. I started thinking like a mother instead of a wife. Sat on the truth. I kept the betrayal buried under everyday routines, school runs, midnight feedings, diaper changes, family dinners. I started researching lawyers quietly. I didn't even tell my closest friends. Some people might think it's dishonest to hide what I knew. But to me, staying quiet wasn't about revenge or manipulation. Every day, I waited, felt like holding my breath underwater. I was still sleeping beside him, so I waited, not out of passivity, but out of preparation. As I continued moving through our life in silence, one thought kept echoing in my mind. The prenup could be my lifeline. It wasn't just a piece of paper anymore, it was a shield. I went back and read it carefully, line by line. Because without that prenup, I had no financial footing. He could afford full-time childcare. He could provide a big house, private school, vacations. But with the prenup voided, the playing field could change. So I held on. I waited. I documented things quietly. And here's what stings the most. He had no idea. He gave me the only advantage I had by breaking his vow. And I wasn't going to waste it. Every diaper I changed, every lullaby I sang, every moment I pretended everything was normal, I was holding on to the truth of that clause. And little did I know, that moment would come sooner than I expected. I thought I'd be the one to bring it up first. I had imagined the moment 100 different ways, some calm, some explosive. But in the end, he beat me to it. We were in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. Almost. The kids were in the living room, watching a movie. And suddenly, he turned to me and said, "I need to tell you something." It was out of nowhere. "What do you mean, you knew?" he asked. His voice cracked, and for a split second, I almost felt sorry for him. Then the words came out. He admitted he had cheated. He said it was a mistake, that he'd been feeling lost, overwhelmed, unappreciated. I didn't yell. I simply looked at him and said, "I know." All the typical justifications you'd expect from someone who got caught doing something unforgivable. He didn't say her name, but I didn't need him to. I already knew everything. I told him I'd known for over a week. That I didn't confront him right away because I needed time to think. That I wasn't going to blow up our family without understanding my options first. When he finished his little speech, I didn't cry. He was sorry he got caught. He was sorry the image of our perfect little family might fall apart. But he wasn't taking real responsibility. He wasn't even trying to understand the depth of the damage he caused. His face changed instantly from shame to shock to anger. Up until that moment, a small part of me still held on to the idea that maybe we could fix this. That maybe, just maybe, his apology was real. That if he was honest and remorseful, we could fight for our family together. I told him about the text messages I found. But the reality is, our family was already broken the moment he made the decision to invite another woman into his life. That choice was the match. Everything else was just watching the fire spread. And while I may eventually forgive him for my own peace of mind, that doesn't mean I owe him reconciliation. I carried it for over a week without him even noticing. The idea of shared custody, legal paperwork, separate holidays, it all hurts. But pretending to rebuild something on a foundation of lies would hurt even more. I wouldn't be selfish. I would be setting a boundary. I would be choosing peace over pretense. I would be choosing a future where I don't have to question if he's really where he says he is. Where I can raise my children without having to fake happiness, just to keep up a broken image of normal. He had his chance to come clean the moment it happened. He waited months. And somehow, I'm the one being called dishonest. He was sorry I had power now. But I had to ask myself, what kind of stability is it when their mother is constantly swallowing pain? Pretending things are okay just to avoid court dates or custody battles. What kind of lesson would I be teaching my daughter about love, or my sons about loyalty, if I stayed with someone who could so easily throw it all away? I stood there in disbelief, as he tried to turn his betrayal into my betrayal. Could I really trust this man again? Would forgiveness mean healing? Or would it mean slowly destroying myself just to keep up appearances for the kids? Was staying together truly better for them, just more comfortable for him? He called me manipulative, said I was sneaky, accused me of plotting against him while pretending everything was fine. That's when he flipped it. Suddenly, I was the one in the wrong. You kept this from me, he said, voice raised. You've been lying to me, hiding things. That's just as bad.
Really?
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He broke his vows, shattered my trust, and now he was painting me as the villain, because I didn't immediately scream at him the moment I found out. Like if I'd only confronted him sooner, things could have been different. He even had the nerve to say I was damaging the family by being cold and distant lately. It was hypocritical, and honestly, pathetic. But what shook me the most wasn't just his reaction, it was the sudden doubts it planted in me. Was I heartless for holding on to the truth in silence? He made it sound like I had ruined the marriage by not giving him the chance to come clean on his own. As if my silence hurt more than his affair. In that moment, I realized something deeply painful. He wasn't truly sorry. Instead, he twisted the narrative, hoping I'd feel just guilty enough to stay. And for a second, I almost did. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about revenge or punishment anymore. It was about clarity. After his outburst he blamed me for keeping secrets. Something inside me shifted. But when he turned the tables, when he weaponized my silence to deflect from his own betrayal, I saw the truth I had been avoiding. He wasn't sorry for cheating. That's when I started asking myself the hard questions I'd been pushing aside. He tried to frame it as me ruining our family by holding on to resentment. Yes, I wanted my children to grow up in a loving, stable home. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't about letting someone back into your life. It's about letting yourself go free. He confessed, yes, but only when it became too heavy for him to carry. I'm not saying divorce is easy. The thought of it makes my chest tighten. So no, I wouldn't be the asshole for divorcing him. He made his choice when he stepped out of our marriage. Now it's my turn to make mine. And this time, I'm choosing me not for revenge, but for the dignity I lost trying to keep someone else's secrets.